bottom line. So you're not here by coincidence. Okay, so really quickly, I'm just going to jump right into it. I want to ask you a quick question. You're speculative. You want to know, how can you prove God exists? Nothing can prove the existence of God. Well, besides the normal natural reaction or the normal natural argument to this, we're saying, we're breathing, we're living creatures. Like, how did this happen? And in the back of your mind, you're going, this is evolution, guys. It's natural. That's what happens, right? But you can't take something from nothing, first off. But that's neither here nor there. I can prove God exists because of conviction. Let me explain. Have you ever been embarrassed? I want to know, if you've been embarrassed, I want you to ask yourself why you felt embarrassed. Okay? And if you've ever had these moments of embarrassment, what were you feeling at the time? I want you to ask yourself, why were you embarrassed? If we're so called just creatures of evolution, why are you feeling a conviction of embarrassment? Right? Because we don't tell ourselves to feel embarrassed. These convictions of embarrassment actually come upon us. This is what's actually called the convictions of the Holy Spirit. You don't realize this because embarrassment is actually directly attached and connected to the idea of holiness and a God's standard of holiness. Now, let me explain. Our nakedness is a direct reflection of the intimacy that we're meant to share with someone specifically for marriage. So when we go from adolescence into adulthood, we actually go through different varying maturing levels into understanding shame as well as why we're embarrassed. This has to do with keeping ourselves holy. So if you've ever felt embarrassed about something, ask yourself, why was I embarrassed? Like, you've ever been pantsed in front of somebody? Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. Well, if we're just creatures of evolution, we're just creatures, we're like animals. Why? Elephants walk around, they got their junk hanging out. Gorillas walk around, they got their junk hanging out. Why were you embarrassed? And so the reason that you were embarrassed is because it's called the conviction of the Holy Spirit. The reason that you were actually embarrassed is because your nakedness is a direct connection and a tie to who you're supposed to share your body with intimately. So you're embarrassed because God is telling you to cover up. It's actually connected to the same thing that happened to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. When Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, after Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and so did Adam, they saw that they were naked and they covered themselves up in fig leaves. What this actually means is they saw that they were exposed. In other words, that they can be seen. And so because they knew that they could be seen, they covered up. They were trying to protect themselves. The nakedness actually is the shame that they felt. So it means that they felt exposed and they wanted to cover themselves up because they didn't want to be seen. They didn't want God to know that they had done something wrong. That's what embarrassment is. You can be embarrassed that you've done something wrong. Why is it wrong? That's the questions you have to ask yourself. Why are they considered wrong? Is this a social statute or is this a God ordained statute? Is this a reason that God doesn't, that God set the standard and that's why it's actually wrong, right? So I really, really encourage you to really ask these questions of why you felt embarrassed, where those things come from, right? So where this conviction came from and why was it wrong? Why did you feel shame? Why did you feel embarrassed? Because that's called the conviction of the Holy Spirit. This is actually God calling you at specific times. And this is proof that he exists. Because we don't tell ourselves to feel these feelings. We don't tell ourselves to feel convicted of embarrassment. This is actually something that